Oh, be careful with that, Henry. Be careful with that. You tell me I can talk about whatever I want. I might start talking about teaching you about the debt ceiling. I apparently taught I taught like a 1 year old about the debt ceiling once, and everybody was in awe because I was using like real. They're like everybody else is talking to him in like one syllable things, and you're trying to explain the debt ceiling to him. And I'm like, well, really, I'm trying to explain it to everybody in the room, but he's the one that's listening.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Um, Welcome back to 22 Panels. My guest today is Henry Barajas. I know him first from La Voz De M.A.Y.O, Tata Rambo, which is one of the great, great nonfiction graphic novels of the last 20 years. And also has a wonderful reading guide at the end that I have used as a reference point for all sorts of things. Um, but also, we've talked a couple of times on the show already about the fact that you have a collection of two comics from Civics for All, the New York City uh, public schools comic program that are being
Yes.
collected by Good Trouble coming up. So why don't you talk to us about those to start off? I
Yeah,
reread them
no,
this
I mean,
morning. They're so good.
a big shout out to Civics for All, the New York Department of Education's uh, group of educators there that value comics in classrooms, and they value comics like the way we just like I mean, Persepolis was just a huge inspiration, as well as Mouse, in me and on me in high school. I was never more engaged when those comics were in the classroom. So I've always wanted to give back to that experience. La Voz De Mayo was a love letter to those comics. So um, having the opportunity to really focus something that was for classrooms and um, and use my love for the medium and what it might do for educating people. That was a golden opportunity, and the first one was about Dolores Huerta, migrant farm workers and union organizers. Mainly because I know a lot of the accolades and accomplishments are attributed to Cesar Chavez, and this is back in 2024. Well, I started making it in 2023, into 2024, published in 2024. And it was really an exciting moment for me to be like, hey, yeah, Cesar Chavez did all these things as well. And it's nice to, like, kind of share the recognition, because that's the way it should have been at all times. And then just this beginning of this year, we find out some very damaging allegations against Cesar Chavez. And it is and which also was a weird circle moment for me and La Voz De Mayo, just to let people know. La Voz De Mayo, Tata Rambo is a comic I made with Jay Gonzo, Bernardo Bryce, and Claire Napier. Originally kickstarted, then recollected for the mass market with Top Cow Productions. It was about my great grandfather, who was a World War II veteran and Chicano activist who helped one of the last Native American tribes gain federal recognition. And my great grandfather, Ramon Jauregui, was very adamant against having any kind of recognition, which dwarfed all the any accomplishments that the group had and the community had, and was consolidated for the tribe, which was, I think, a bit off. So that's why I wanted to kind of write that comic and kind of share another part of the history. But I guess in one of the main things about that comic is I talk about his infidelity with my grandmother, I was writing that in 2015 at the height of the Me Too movement, so it felt disingenuous to write this glowing, accomplishment comic about him and not have those conversations. So I did get to kind of touch on some of the lesser known parts of Cesar Chavez and the way he acted towards Dolores, and how she kept a lot of wrote a lot of letters of all the grievances she had. And to have this, to also mention that, like, yeah, he was someone who did some important things, but was also a human being and had his faults. Little did we know those faults would be, maybe, I mean, the allegations point towards some really horrible
Possibly even
stuff.
bigger than we would like them to be.
Yeah, so it was nice to write that comic and to kind of help strengthen the accomplishments of Dolores, the Filipino farm workers, union organizers that were all a part of the journey in 1968. And then there was an opportunity to write another comic with Louis Chen, who's the artist on both the Sal Castro and Dolores Huerta comic, and Gab Contreras, who's the colorist on both of those, and I'm the letterer for both of those projects as well. And so I was like, I did one for me that was something I wanted to do. What does the department want? And they wanted something on Sal Castro. And since I'm in Los Angeles, it was easy to get to East LA and actually go to his physical classroom in high school and experience it firsthand. Um, and so when the allegations came out about Cesar Chavez, uh, Andrew Aiden, one of the co-founders of Good Trouble
Right.
Comics, reached out and said, "Hey, we should recollect these comics that you did." And with the permission and the grace of Civics for All, we have an agreement that I get to recollect those as long as they get to do whatever they want and
Right.
educate with those pieces. So I'm very happy and
Well, and
on August
he
5th.
seems to have some sort of relationship with them as well, because this is not the first time that Good Trouble has collected Civics for All comics.
Yes.
Uh,
Obviously, like I don't know I don't know the full ins and outs of what they
oh no,
wait that they do, but this is more of a because I have this agreement with them,
right.
I can recollect these
You can just
comics.
say yes.
Yeah,
You can just
so
say yes. You don't need their permission.
I mean,
Um,
I did get there. I did run it by them. I just wanted to make
right,
sure that like,
right.
hey, this is what I'm doing. Are you okay with it? And they were super. I mean, one of the people there, I don't know if he likes. I know he's pretty shy, so I'm not gonna totally out him. But one of the person I deal with directly is very awesome and very supportive of the work that we've done. So uh,
One day I will get over my own uh like I have a weird shyness. Like I'm much more shy outside of comics than inside of comics. And when I get shy inside of comics, it's not always for the like I'm less likely often to get shy because of somebody really famous than somebody who has done something that I am really impressed by and is still not known. And then I go, which means that they might just not be used to people fawning over them. And I have to try to not do that because I don't want to make them uncomfortable. But like these are amazing.
no, I struggle with compliments a lot of the time, so I understand the
Well, and
balancing act of being able to accept people's enthusiasm while
I think that
always
that yeah, I think the comics are also like filled with neurodiverse introverts. So like we like to talk, but first we have to feel safe, and then we have to know that you don't mind that we're weird.
Sure, sure. No, I'm lucky to have had a life outside of comics, so that I'm prepared to have these conversations, whether they be glowing or negative, So
Okay. I
I feel
mean,
very lucky in that respect.
I suppose I have a life outside of comics, but but I don't know what my life inside of comics is way more interesting, even though it's only existed for like four
Sure.
years.
There is like a bounce, like, again, another to me a balancing act of like having for this as far as for me, comics is kind of a workplace, so I have to like treat it in a professional manner and like
Right.
kind of set guidelines for myself and especially for other people, whether they be professionals or the press or collectors or retailers. So I'm always trying to be professional, and a lot of the times, like there's a lot of people that view like, oh, well, he was not as like forthcoming or more like personable. Um, so he must not like me or he must be a jerk. And it's like, no, I just want to maintain this part of my life and have the longevity that I really would like to have.
Right.
And sometimes
Right.
that professionalism can be not as a lot of people have expectations when they meet
Right.
like me or
Well,
their favorite
particularly
creators
because
and
at
stuff.
least like for my autistic brain, um, professionalism is one of the words that like I get the least because like it seems so fluid from environment to environment, person
Right.
to person. Like I can feel like I'm acting completely professional and somebody can say that was completely unprofessional. I can sit there going, I can sit there going, this feels completely unprofessional to me. And like everybody will be going, what do you mean? This is the definition of professional. I'm like, so particularly because the word that seems to have nothing to do with professional is kindness. And,
Right.
and I don't understand how you can be unkind and still professional.
I've
Or
perfected the
kind
art,
and
my friend.
unprofessional.
I can do
You know what
kind
I mean?
and professional, and I can do unkind and professional.
Right.
Those are very easy for me.
I mean, I'm certain they are to you because you seem more thoughtful than a lot of people. But
I
like
try to be.
again,
I really do. I really
you
try to be
know,
thoughtful
we
because
live in a
comics
world where
is
not everybody is thoughtful, and professionalism seems like a word that's often used to be like if you act like me you're being right, and if you don't act like me there's something wrong with you,
right.
not me.
Yeah. That's a
And I'm
good
not
point.
saying that that was how you used it, just saying that that's how
No,
my
no, I
professional it's how
I
my brain
understand
went
what you're
off.
saying 100%. I understand exactly what
You
you're
know,
saying. And I
because
actually had this
I mean,
conversation with somebody before.
right, because I mean the handful of listeners that I have know this already, but I should be clear with you. When I say my autistic brain, I am autistic. It's not like just
Sure.
me like saying, "Oh, that part of my brain that's weird."
I
You
get it.
know?
I get it 100%. And in this business, you're met with all kinds of personalities and people on the spectrum in so many different ways.
Yeah, and
And
then and because of that, this business is really comfortable to me. It's the rest of the world that is often.
Sure, that makes sense. But
Um,
yeah, sorry to sidetrack, but yeah,
I
I'm
was
really
I was going to
excited.
bring it back, but
Yeah,
bring it back to um I'm going to go backwards. We'll talk to I know the Dolores was the even more personal story to you, and that's one of the reasons I want to go backwards to it because
sure.
I want to make certain we get Sal in before we start running out of steam or anything. Um, because I appreciate teacher stories.
Oh,
I
yeah.
appreciate
No,
teacher stories a lot. I
I wouldn't
think
be where I am without some of the educators in my life. So I'm always
right.
trying
A-
to.
a- And particularly in an era where there are more and more positions that teachers aren't supposed to take, where more and more things seem to fall into the realm of politics. And oh, you can't take a political position. And it's like, well, but when did this become politics? How is everybody should eat politics?
Yeah. And it
How
is.
how
It
how
always was.
should
That's the
how
thing. It
should we
always
shouldn't
was
shoot
politics.
people at school?
Yeah.
Politics.
It was always politics. No, from the very beginning, you know.
It is, but like even in my team time in teaching, it feels like there's an ever growing list of things that you're not supposed to talk about, and it's almost always the I'm going to put big air quotes up, not because I don't think that the word applies, but because I think that the word doesn't apply enough. Progressive things.
Yeah.
Progressive
It's
now means anything that like isn't 100% easy for affluent white males to sit with.
yeah.
Um,
No,
which
100%.
feels like it doesn't have to go very far left. I mean, things that I actually think are regressive or or center right often get labeled as progressive, and as soon as it's progressive, then it's political speech and you need to avoid it. If it's conservative, and conservative seems to be almost reactionary now, and or magical thinking of a time that never quite existed,
Yeah,
then it's okay to talk about. No, nobody
100%.
like
Yeah.
nobody says, "Oh, get that political talk of that white guy who's kind of cool out of my school." You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, growing up an hour from the border, did not get any information about the land that my family was indigenous to, um, the country it used to belong to. Um, so it's always that I feel like making comics is my college, and I get to learn more about American history and world history all the time. And to go back to Sal, it was very upsetting to see how relevant it all is still today, from 1968, and the things that these kids were protesting for and marching out of their classrooms. It was the first time kids were protesting and leaving school. And the thought process behind that was, well, we're seeing Vietnam protesters being assaulted and civil rights activists and being assaulted. Maybe the kids won't be assaulted by cops, and this will bring
Right.
attention to the things that are happening in our community. While that was brilliant, and it wasn't always the case, but it was an interesting train of thought, and a lot of people say was the birth of the Chicano movement.
Right. And unfortunately, that's too often the birth of so many movements is trying to figure out like what way can we put ourselves in danger that that hopefully will both minimize the danger and maximize the amount that people who aren't in danger will pay attention. Um, Sorry, I spaced out for a second. That's just not yeah. Anyway, uh yeah. I enjoyed learning about Sal. It was nice to see the teacher that um not only taught his kids, but encouraged them to organize, encouraged them to use
Go to
their own
school,
voices.
go to
Right.
college.
Go to school,
Yeah,
go to college, but also walk out of class at times. I mean, to,
exercise your First Amendment rights.
right. Like so often, um, so often the discussion becomes about who's allowed to speak, regardless of like who's actually affected.
Right.
Like, so to have students speaking on student issues should be something that we treasure and value, but it's always, oh, well, they don't know. And it's like, well, I mean, they do because they're living it. Maybe
Yeah.
you have a different perspective, and maybe some of that is important. I mean, I don't know that we should let kids 100% guide their education because they don't know what they're guiding towards, but you should certainly shouldn't be discounting what they're saying to you because they know their lives. I mean, yes, you've been their age, but you were their age in a different era. And while some things absolutely stay the same, other things do not. This is why,
Yeah.
like, we're going through an era where teachers want to blame everything on social media and smartphones. I'm old enough to remember when you could replace those words with just the internet. I'm old enough
Yeah.
to remember when you could replace the word internet with television. Like it's always the same argument. It's just
Yeah.
like things were better when I was young, and what has changed since I was young?
Yeah. For sure. 100%.
Because that must be the problem. Whatever has changed since I was young must be the problem. Um, so yeah, I appreciated that a lot. You talked some about Dolores Huerta already and what was um, important to you both because of the previous work you'd done for Lavaz. I had it pulled up so that I
La
would
Voz De M.A.Y.O.
pronounce
Yeah, it's literally the
Stamayo.
last panel of the comic, and I say the next thing I want to do. Very much a like Babe Ruth pointing to the to the grass across the plate, and is
Right,
like, this is what I want to do next, and I'm putting it out there. I'm manifesting this in a book that I did not know at the time would be so well received, and
right.
it was definitely something that like a exorcism of my great grandfather's memories out of my mind and bones. So I feel very fortunate that I've got to tell a couple stories I really want to tell in ways that I want to do it.
That what is it that draws you to her story?
It's just, I mean,
I
it's a
mean,
real shame that she was completely omitted from the very important work she did. She put her life on the line. She put her children's childhoods on the line. She put her entire family, and as we're learning now, she has made claims that Cesar Chavez uh, had raped her, and she had taken two of his kids to term, according to the her confession recently. So we learned more about how difficult this all was, but now we see her in her 90s, still out there, being progressive and doing whatever she can to bring attention to important things that are going on in the world. And she never stopped. And that was the other thing about the comic is like, yeah, 1968 was a very important year, and the years, following that. But she like went into the 90s and the 2000s and still had impacts in the way migrant farm workers are treated and paid, and the way we eat. So it was just an exciting opportunity to kind of hopefully broaden what we learn about that particular time period in American history.
that was such a you say 68 and I'm in Chicago, so I immediately think the Democratic National Convention. It's obviously already the year that we lost King and Bobby Kennedy Jr., which you put into the comic. Um, you know, just because I'm autistic, it's the last year before we lowered the mounds. There were so many things that 68 represented.
Yeah, 68 is an incredible year. Um,
Um,
so I'm lucky I get to kind of focus on such a particular point of his American history.
yeah. Well, and for that matter, it was one of the years. I mean, when did Sal start teaching?
It was like
I feel
66,
like yeah, I feel like
65.
68 was part
Yeah.
of his story too.
Yeah, no, it's in the comic.
You
Yeah, for
know,
sure. That's the year the walkouts happened. That's the year the FBI arrested him. I mean, it's
right.
yeah, it's like, and that was, and like when I started writing La Voz de Mayo in 2015, that's when like I remember writing it, and I remember seeing Trump ascend on the escalator, and I remember just making this art and being like, yeah, that this has been like, times have been bad, and then like making Dolores and being in that kind of post-Trump, early Biden cleanup, and then going back to Sal and going back to, a possibility of Trump, and just always having, and then making the debt to Pachuco in 20 starting in 2023, 2024, and just like having these important moments in my life to be like, yeah, things are always bad. They always get worse. They can always be better. They are better, but there is just a nuance that you get to live in while making these kinds of comics that
Yeah.
are like, we're better, we're stronger than we could ever hope for, and it's just it takes a little time to realize that.
I mean, I lean towards belief in King's broad arc of history, but I think where people often drop the ball is when he's talking the broad arc of history, he's talking like things are better now in terms of justice and whatnot than they were 300 years ago. And 300 years ago, they were better than 600 years ago, which was better than 1,000 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah,
That doesn't mean that in the tighter span, you don't have a lot of, I mean, there aren't many places in the world where just because you were born a lord, you can choose to chop off somebody's head without consequence. That wasn't
right,
true a
right.
thousand years ago.
No,
So
no.
good. That's good. But I mean, I think what like and as I talk to you, I realize that like a lot of my study of history lately has been the last 40 years and like dripping into the 10 years before that, right? But really Reagan, my lifetime has seen in a lot of ways a slide with occasional speed bumps,
Yeah,
you
I call it
know.
a I always some I don't know where I heard this, but it's definitely a pendulum. I see it as a
Right.
we're always
But
constantly
our current
swinging.
pendulum has definitely been swinging in a direction that I don't like. And the more I think about it, the more I think that like 68 might actually be closer to that 60, somewhere between 60 and 68, you know, because the thing is like economically you could have made the argument in 68 that the liberal view of economics had won. Um,
Depends on what side of
but
the fence
but
you're
by
standing on, for sure,
but
you
by
know.
but by 85, like all of that was
Eroded,
gone.
for sure. Yeah,
Right.
like
We
it's always
were
yeah,
well on our way back to the Gilded Age and beyond.
yeah, it's always a classism issue. It's always, racism issue, sexism, depends on where you
Right.
are and who you were born as.
And
It,
it's also clear that racism and sexism are one of the easier ways for people that really care the most about classism to get people who their policies will hurt to be on their side.
100%.
Let,
Yeah, I mean,
let's not talk about how this policy will hurt you. Let's talk about how it will hurt that person you don't like, and maybe
yeah.
you won't think about how it won't hurt you.
Yeah, no, it's and that's yeah, and that was what was really exciting about talking about Dolores and talking about Sal and hopefully making it engaging in a way for a high school kid to understand what's happening, to appreciate the art that has gone into this. And, with comics, it's always a special choice of words because the art is doing so much of the heavy
Right.
lifting. So, they're dense books, they're dense comics. And thankfully, I'm working with Lauren Sankovic at Good Comics to kind of do a recollection and remastering of the comics. So I'm relettering and finding more concise ways to tell the story. So I'm really really excited for this. And Jay Gonzo, he's the cover artist and someone who's really blown up in popularity since we've worked on the
Yeah, he
Voz De
did one of
M.A.Y.O.
Pornsak Pichetshote's Horizon project, didn't he?
No,
I think.
I mean he's more on the cover artist side.
I mean, I know he's done tons of cover art stuff, but I thought that Pornsak got him to do
No,
one of
he
his
might have done a cover, but
uncommon interiors for one of those.
he, I know he did Godzilla. He wrote and drew that.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
Maybe that's
he
what I saw him
did,
do
um,
recently.
he did some
That's
Cheech and
probably it.
Chong. I got him hooked up to do Cheech and Chong artwork, interiors for that. I mean, Gonzo and I are like separated at birth brothers. Like he's like an older brother
Okay.
to me, and we both
Cool,
have a
cool.
lot of sensibilities in comedy. And Cheech and Chong are some big some big pillars in that. But yeah, so like I'm very lucky that Gonzo has an affinity for history the way I do, and he churned out some incredible covers for us. But we're using the
Yeah.
Dolores cover for the for the book
For the cover of
just because
the
it's so
right.
beautiful. But yeah, no, I'm really proud of it, and I'm really excited that it gets a second life in the mass market. Hopefully, comic book stores are able to get a couple copies, and I'm hoping. I know.
I know the store that I'm involved in will be ordering. Um, if if for no other reason than I'll twist his arm, but there are way more reasons than that.
Thank
You
you. I
know,
appreciate that.
the owner learned English from Captain America, so he's always looking for. I mean, we're one of the handful of the stores in the area that goes out of its way to get any bilingual book, or will order new books in Spanish
Very
when he
cool.
can, that sort of thing. So like
Yeah,
this is up his
and Death to
alley.
Pachuco is definitely in bilingual.
Well,
So yeah.
Death to Pachuco, like he was just coming home from a con when we set up our, or he was just headed out to a con that I don't even know for certain if he's home, but he's also a psychologist. So like the only reason Edgar isn't here is we scheduled like quickly enough in terms of when we were going to be able to get together that I'm like, I don't want to add the pressure to his head. He needs to try to go read this book and squeeze it.
Yeah.
But you're going to have to come back because I know that Edgar will want to talk with you.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
Because
totally.
we love Pachuco, and that was where I was about to head. Is talk to me about the difference, because Death Pachuco is. We'll get into deep stuff on the book itself, but first talk to me about the difference between writing history and writing historical fiction, because Death Pachuco is just a noir mystery, but it's also very, very centered in very accurate history of Los Angeles at the time. So talk to me about
Yeah.
how.
It's interesting because like I love noir, and noir is always handling that balance of like,
Mhm.
there is gentrification or natural resources like Chinatown. I love Chinatown. I'm not, I do have the 2020 vision of the problematic themes in that movie and story, but originally Chinatown is about who controls the water in a certain part of LA. And no one's ever going to look at Chinatown as a, well, this is an environmental issue story. Um, so there is a lot of leniency when it's not like it's not a BIPOC kind of story. So when I the the background of Death to Pachuco is a real murder and a real racist event, because it's tied to brown people, it becomes more of a political thing. Because no one
Right.
will ever say Chinatown's a political movie when it really is.
Okay.
Um, and I knew that going into it that because it's in bilingual, because it's focused on black and brown people, it is going to be a political story. And to me, it was my chance to write a rated R story. I wanted to do something that I'm like, this isn't going to be in classrooms. And Q to 2 weeks ago, I was literally in a high school classroom
That
of
was
kids that
teaching it.
read it.
Of
Yeah,
course.
and it was like, edited
D
down, which I don't mind. But it was
well,
just
I mean,
like,
I'm actually a little surprised it was edited down. I've seen Watchmen taught in high school classrooms, and
sure.
I don't know that
Well, I don't know.
there's
I don't care.
anything
I mean, for
worse
me, I don't
in
care.
Death to
And the fact that
Pachuco that
the school got behind it, like it's
right.
interesting to see
That's my
how
point.
excited they were and whatever degree of comfort that they needed to be. Yeah, as you were saying, now is like I'm sure a kid could have, because it is like every classroom I was in. I'm sure there were the minority were anyone else but Mexican or brown students. So I'm
Right.
sure if a kid brought a Spanglish comic with like the curse words I did have in Spanish, I'm sure someone would have been upset about that. Um, but
I think it depends
to,
a lot on the district.
yeah,
I wish it
so
depended less on the district because words are words.
yeah, yeah, but
And learning context is important.
I
What
agree.
better way to know when not to use a word than to see it
See it.
used and see the effect in fiction?
I agree, and that's why I'm surprised. In Dolores Huerta, I talk about Operation Wetback, and that's not censored.
Right,
You know,
right.
um, so for Det to Pachuco, it was a chance to try to have the same grace a Raymond Chandler has or an Ed Brubaker has. When they're writing about a very particular point of time where you're using racist and sexist because that was the norm. But it was a freedom of like I get to tell a story
Right.
that I want to tell, and I don't have to worry about it being in a school.
I am always fascinated by when, particularly when, this is totally a white privilege type thing. Like when Sherlock Holmes uses cocaine, nobody's like, "Oh, I'm fascinated that somebody took their white hero and made them flawed that way." Um, but because too much of the world has not been willing to allow their BIPOC heroes not to be angels, because there was a certain section of the world that the second it turned out that Hugo Chavez was probably even worse. Not Hugo Chavez, Cesar Chavez was probably even worse with women than we had already known. Oh, oh, that means we should just discount everything. Um, it's a definite choice. I think a good choice, but a definite choice, and I would imagine a hard choice to take one of your heroes in the story and make him an addict. Talk to me about making those decisions.
For me, I love Sherlock Holmes, and
I do too.
um, I'm a huge fan of detective comics and stories and noir, and um, it added more. It made him less desirable to be like I loved that it kind of messed with the whole idea of this guy and that it made him not there is an element of him that could be untrustworthy or could challenge how you see this character. A real credit to Will Dennis, the editor, who was very good about reading the book and finding ways to make it better. And I'm very lucky he worked with us and was able to help us make this book shine. Um, but it was very much a what if what if I put the Holmes in Sherlock Holmes and make him without beating it over your head, and unless you're a real Sherlock Holmes fan, he is the Mexican Sherlock Holmes, basically.
I
I
mean,
mean,
even
he
as a
he lives on
real
Baker
Sherlock Holmes
Street.
fan, he comes pretty close.
Yeah, he
I
lives
mean,
on Baker Street like the real Sherlock Holmes, and there was a
he's
Baker
he's
Street.
he's mildly less autistic, and that's said as the guy that knows that the sentence mildly less autistic isn't really a sentence because autism is a million different things. But like Holmes is like the almost automaton type,
100%.
and
Yeah.
and 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 he's mildly more interested in people in general, whereas I think that's one of the places where Holmes's neurodiversity really comes out. Like he's not very good at. I mean, I would actually argue that the places where he's least like Holmes, he's a better human being than Holmes. How about that?
That is,
That's what I'm
yeah.
going for.
that was a thing I wanted to do where like for me, I wanted him to care about people,
Right.
and that is an
And
important
it's not
part.
that Holmes doesn't, but he's got a really, because there are the times where he decides to play judge and jury mostly to show mercy
Yeah.
when he doesn't believe that the system will.
Yeah.
But like Watson is literally the closest he ever gets to anybody. And even him, he seems to keep it like
100%.
6 feet.
And I love that. I love that part about that whole dynamic. And that was the
Yeah.
other thing was like, I don't mind spoiling Death to Pachuco in this talk, but like the whole idea
Hold
was,
on,
and what I
hold on.
like,
John Lee's taught me to do this. Spoiler alert, spoiler alert. If you haven't read Death of Pachuco and you want to not have spoilers, pause the recording now. Go buy and read the book. You should go right buy and read the book anyway, and then come back and hear the spoilers. So now spoilers. John Lee's taught me that, and I love it.
no, that's smart. That's smart because I could spoil the hell out of this book as any chance I can get without that warning. But
I'm all for spoiling books. I like having spoilery conversations. That's why
yeah,
often
for
I'll have
sure.
people on the show right before the first issue and then right after the trade paperback has come out.
Yeah. The idea I love that like in noir, you never get a satisfying ending, and the thing that everybody wants is always just out of reach. And the way, we kill Chuco Loco or we shoot him, we don't know if he's dead, you know. So
Right,
there is that open ending. And then you have the moment where the way we sunset the character, even though he didn't get the guy. And I don't know if you caught this, but you find out that his mom's the server at the restaurant and that he found his mom,
right,
and he still got something out of this whole
right,
horrible moment in his life.
right.
Um, so, and that's what I like about noir. It's even sadder that his like drugged out mom doesn't realize she's serving her own son every Friday
Right,
at this Mexican restaurant. So
right.
to play with those themes and to have those opportunities as a storyteller is all I could ask for.
Um, as I go through, like I pulled up League of Comic Geeks because I often do during the show, and I see that you were involved in Perfect Crime Party, which I have a copy of sitting downstairs.
Yeah,
You were involved in Won't Back Down, which I have a copy of sitting downstairs. Project Cryptid, which I have all the issues. Um, one of the downsides, at least for me, reading as many comics as I read is sometimes I will read stuff in anthologies and love it and not connect it to the writers and artists that I already also love. So talk to me about working in anthologies, first of all. Um, but second, like what stories have you done in anthologies that you really enjoyed and want to plug? Because I'm all for plugging anthologies
sure,
because then you're
sure.
plugging lots of people rather than just yourself.
I guess to answer your question about working in anthologies is that's how you get your start if you're lucky. If people are open to have you in a part of their ensemble and to
Right,
cut your teeth with telling stories. You realize comics are told in panels, not pages. So how you can maximize the allotted time you have
right.
is a way to hone your skills. So I'm always happy to do something in a bite-sized way. Perfect Crime Party, Kel McDonald reached out, big fan of Kel's work, and it was also an opportunity to do something that wasn't like bloody and
Yeah.
that had those creative guardrails. And when I heard, yeah, it's fun heist stuff. And when I thought oh, like maybe I could do a joke, and then I just was like, oh, joke thief, joke, like that is a thing that people steal people's store like their jokes. And I was a stand-up comic for 4 years in Tucson, and I tried when I moved out to LA, but comics and publishing paid faster. Um, to kind of just make believe uh, a version of myself that was going to steal stuff from people, but also kind of channel the weird, shady people that I had to interact with every week for 4 years was fun. And to work with Kit Mills, who has worked on Gil Thorp, and we've worked on something else that hopefully will be announced soon. And yeah, so that was great. The Cryptid, um, Sarah uh, is the editor on that, and someone who I've always wanted, Sarah Starlet, who used to follow on Tumblr, who's someone I've always known and big fan of. So it was like, hold on, sorry. Uh, yeah, so it was just like, like to tell that story about. I actually that story is about the Beast of Genevieve who was in France, and I learned that from puppet history.
Okay.
So,
Okay. I
um,
think I remember that story now.
yeah, and I got to work with an amazing artist there. Um, uh, oh my God, I'm blanking on their name. They have an internet name and a full name. Um,
That's so often the case, isn't it?
yeah.
Do you remember what issue it was?
I don't remember what issue it was, but I can find it. I'm gonna find it. Um, here. Yes. Here we go. Where is it? Here we go. Somali Loose.
I don't know that name off the top of my head.
Salome Luce Antoinette, and that's someone who I worked with on Gila Girl, and so and also like using these anthologies as a way to like work with artists that I'm a fan of, and we get to do something bite-sized and see if that's something that we can keep doing together. So we worked on Gila Girl and we worked on Project Cryptid together. So
Yeah,
um,
no, you guys were in issue four, and I'm just gonna say that like issue four was a particular um uh uh Mm. bountiful issue because the other story was Liana Kangas and Jaslyn Stone with Ted Brandt and Rose Stein, and then the the prose was by Carol Leigh with art from Rick Geary. So like even people who didn't read all of Project Cryptid should go find Project Cryptid issue four.
100%. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's
Jaslyn
got
Stone and
it's just a
Liana
ridiculous
Kangas.
amount of talent
Sarah Litt.
involved.
Sarah Litt. Yeah, that's the
Is
editor.
the editor. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a fun issue. Because
Yeah.
I love Jaslyn Stone with all my heart, and Liana Kangas has always been someone who's been very supportive and kind, and I'm a big fan of her work.
Brandt
And
and Stein are big favorites at 22 panels. As
oh
is
yeah.
Rick Geary is a big favorite of 22 Panel's wife and art director of our Instagram account. And Carol Leigh was a wonderful, wonderful guest on 22 Panels.
Oh,
So
cool. I'll have to look for that.
the only people from the I haven't had Jaslyn Stone on, I haven't had Fawns on, and I haven't had Salome Louche Antoinette on. All of the other featured creators on this issue have been on 22 panels at least once, and many of them two or three times.
That's
Uh,
great. Yeah, no, I'm happy to make
as
those
has Tom
introductions.
Pyre and Stuart Moore. So like we've got our Ahoy bona fides here at 22 panels.
For sure. For
um,
sure, man. Thank you.
yeah. I did figure out the other Kickstarter years that I backed. Bandits of Batavia. Talk to me about.
Bandits of Batavia is yes, that is like Brian is someone who I consider a very close friend. We worked on a really cool anthology together. I helped him flesh out Black Bull
That would
and
be Brian Valenza,
Brian Valenza and
the writer and colorist.
writer and colorist. I co-wrote and I co kind of he wants to be a writer, so it was an opportunity to help him figure
Right,
out what that meant.
right.
So we yeah, no, I loved that was basically my poor man's Frank Miller attempt. If you read that, it's very
Okay.
dark.
I just reread Ronin, so that I can
It's
see
yeah,
that.
like the emphasis on the just like a homage and just kind of finding the rhythms of how that character how his characters have
Right,
an internal monologue, and that's kind of what I was
right,
aiming for that. But yeah, so Brian and I mean, he's going to take that character to whatever direction he needs to take, and I'm really excited to see what he does with it. But I will always be tied to it, whether he likes it or
right,
not.
right. Um, Before we get into to my favorite closing questions, I've got a pair of them. I do totally want to talk to you about. You're one of um a handful of people that have like almost gone backwards in time because you also became the writer on Gil Thorp. So talk to me about the difference between writing 22-page comics or 8-page short stories and trying to get a story into 3 or 4 panels on a daily basis.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. My good friend Alex Segura was kind enough to put my
Also a
name up.
22 panels alum.
He was someone who reached out and said, "I think you should take this over." I basically said
And a great guy.
I want to do Gil Thorpe, but Ted Lasso in high school, and they were into it, and I got to work with Rod Wiggum, who's incredible artist, and then I was able to fold in Rachel Merrill, the artist and co-creator of Death to Pachuco. Yeah, so I mean, I grew up, I was a journalist. I love reading newspaper comics. I love when I was a kid, I used to chew Bazooka Joe just to read the comics. Um,
I get
and
that.
and have that like nonsensical, non sequitur,
I was also the weird kid that chewed the baseball gum
the
and the
baseball
baseball
card gum.
cards.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Even
Um,
when I was buying 10, 15, 30-year-old packs. My wife won't let me chew any of the gum from packs now. She
that's
says it's way too old. I
yeah,
still want
that's a
to
good.
anytime I'm opening a pack with gum, but she says I'm not allowed.
Well, I'm very grateful she's around
Yeah,
to
she
stop
takes
you
care of
from
my
doing that.
health way better than I ever did.
Yeah. So the beauty of Gil is you get to see the forest through the trees and write something that um is a newspaper that lives in newspapers. So not everyone gets the newspaper, not everyone gets the newspaper every day. So there is a bit of a freedom to
At
kind
this
of
point, not every newspaper carries the comics every day.
yes, that as well. So I do have this sensibility of entering moments in Gil's life that um, will that have to cue you from past moments, present a new question or problem, and then leave it open-ended enough that they hopefully will come back again. And um, it is an art I am always trying to perfect. Sometimes I hit the mark, sometimes I miss it.
Well,
Um,
I know. I mean, one of the reasons that we talked a little bit off air, and I'm going to bring up some of the stuff right now, because I know you're well regarded, and I love your stuff in general, and I always had trouble wrapping my head around the Gil Thorpe, um, until you started talking to me about it, and I'm going to share with the listeners where my issue was, so you can kind of also share with them. is I always felt like maybe I'd missed something. I'm I was trying to look at, and sometimes in comic strips you like old Dick Tracy strips are like this, only they would catch you up too much. Like I always felt like an old Dick Tracy strip, it's like the first two panels were telling you what you read yesterday in case you missed
Yeah.
yesterday, and
Yeah.
then you got two or three new panels. Um, Milt Caniff was better at actually being linear, but I can also imagine how if for whatever reason you missed a Steve Canyon or missed a Terry and the Pirates, it could wind up being difficult because it's like, oh, wait a minute, what happened in that comic that I missed? Um, you were describing your approach to Gil Thorpe to me, and it made me want to go back and read it. So will you share that with my mom and brother and Britt and John and the handful of other listeners that we might have?
What can you remind me
Um,
of what I said? I
you talked about how you only had three panels, so you would often jump in the middle of the scene because
yes.
you knew that somebody might be reading this for the first time and not have read the other stuff, or so it seemed like you had a particular way that you were doing storytelling where you maybe aren't giving us all of the moments, but trying to get to the essence of the characters.
That is, yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. Again, it's not always a home run, and it's not always something that I accomplish, but to
Hey, the
me,
bunt single
like,
with the error that gets you to second is equally
there
as
you go.
good.
Um, but my goal a lot of the times, and why I reintroduce his kids, and why I've tried to make it all come back to Gil, and everything's kind of circling around him, whether it be at home, whether it be in his work, or whether it be on the field, or any various sports arena. But it's always something that affects him, or something that's going to affect him. So I always hope, at least if you don't remember what happened, or it's your first time um, reading, or your last time reading, it is centered around the titular character. So that's always been something I've really tried to focus on. Again, and what you see with every character, and especially people writing characters for a long time, you start to create characters that seem more interesting, and that start to kind of live a bigger life. Like Gil is going to be remarried to a character I created, and I'm trying to flesh her out as much as I can, to so that we can all understand why Gil wants to spend the rest of his life with someone, while making it about Gil, and it's always going to be about Gil. So I appreciate you letting me know that, I don't mind people giving me, feedback, and I'm always open to it. So
Well,
um,
and again, I always assumed that it was me, and I still assume that it was me, not you.
oh no,
Um,
there's other people have told me that exact same thing, and it's not
well,
just you.
but I think I will be looking. I mean, I don't promise because I go back and forth on how much I'm reading new comic strips, so I don't
Yeah.
promise that I'll get back to it anytime soon. But I know that I'll look at it through a different lens now. Um, because I always had the problem, and this is another question I'm going to ask for my handful of listeners, as much as for myself, is I always had the problem with I know that Gil Thorpe is this long running character, blah blah blah, but until you wrote Gil Thorpe, I'd never read a Gil Thorpe comic. I don't know who Gil Thorpe is. So like, who
Yeah.
is Gil Thorpe? That might actually unlock lot of stuff too. Like, because that's the other thing is like, I'm like, I like Henry's work. I don't know if I want to go read 50 years of God knows what quality of somebody else's work to
Right.
figure
No,
out to make it easier to read Henry's current work. So,
I
so
understand
sum up Gil Thorpe
100%.
for me.
Gil Thorpe, to me, is the teacher that saw something in you that a lot of people didn't see,
Okay.
and gave you the chance and never yelled, or was upset at you for failing while playing sports, because that is the essence of sports, in my opinion. Like, I love it when I'm a Clippers fan, so I love the Clippers when they're winning
Now,
or
now
losing.
I was about to say, how long have you been a Clippers fan? Because
I've
that
been a
says a
Clippers fan for
lot
10
about what kind of
years. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, they've
So
been good for most of those 10 years, haven't
they
they?
have been, but they haven't been able to
I guess I'm
achieve
thinking
what you
Golden
want
State
them.
is the team that got really, really good after
Oh
being
yeah,
really, really
like, and
bad.
that's the thing.
Clippers
Like, you
aren't
can name
quite the same.
any team. You can name any team, and the highs and lows. And for me, that's what I want to
Well, I
introduce
mean,
to the character.
let's be fair. I'm a Cubs fan, so like
There's
we did
songs, there's
finally get
fables.
that
Yes,
high.
yes, there's
But
fables of the
until
Cubs journey.
2016, if you said that sentence,
Yeah.
I go, most of my highs also involved crushing heartbreak, Henry.
And that's the thing that you want in Gil. You want kids to have crushing
And
heartbreak. You
much of
want
my crushing heartbreak didn't involve any highs.
and that's what you want to give. And so Gil is that guy that says even if we win and even if we lose, I'm proud of you. And that is like
Okay.
what I've tried to instill in the character and basically
So he never
have.
goes on any Lee Elia rants.
No, he does rant. He is human, and I try. And we're I'm really excited. There's going to be a really cool moment that is kind of a like what you just said. A lot of people don't know who Gil Thorp is, and Marco Finnegan is the guest artist for this, and he gets to talk to his friend that he meets in 1958 in a dream because this guy's dead. And he gets to explain what he's worried about, which you'll never see him talk about with other characters. You see an internal struggle of like I'm going to get remarried and I'm afraid I'm going to fail at this marriage. And this guy is
Okay.
like, "Hey, Gil, you never give up." And that's what we love about you. And
Okay.
I really hope people see that and see the like Gil Thorpe that I see.
So a couple of follow-up questions there. First, what does Gil teach?
So he is the athletics director and he's based on of Jim Thorpe. Am I saying that right? Jim
Yeah, Jim
Thorpe?
Thorpe
So Jim Thorpe is a Native
was the
American
yeah,
triathlon. He did every sport. So
Major League ball player, football player, everything. Yeah, yeah.
that's Gil. So he teaches every sport, and
Okay.
he
So he's the
has
athletic director and coaches everything,
he
but he doesn't
coaches
teach
everything. He,
classes
so
well.
he does substitute teaching, and in my tenure, he mainly substitutes teaches the French class, which I think is very funny.
Does he speak French or
He
does he just
does. I
substitute
mean,
teach?
I have not said, but he has said a few things in French. So I've left that to the
Oui,
imagination of the reader. Because
oui,
I did
and
French class, and I was given passing grades because I was so charming and so funny, which
I got
I like to
passing
think.
grades. I got passing grades in Latin class, but but it's important to understand that in my Latin class, we played Scrabble on a semi-regular basis, and if you played in the Scrabble game with the teacher, you got extra credit points for every point that you were able to beat him by, if you were able to beat
Wow,
him.
that's
And I
great.
am a very, very, very good Scrabble player.
I love that. I love
There
that. So
there
yeah,
was one there was one semester in which I got a D.
and then you went up to an A.
No, 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 no. I got a D despite the fact that like I think there were 1,100 points total available during the semester,
Yeah.
and away from the Scrabble board, I got 20 points.
Wow.
All of the rest were the Scrabble board and the catapult contest. I'm a pretty
I
good
love
engineer.
that. I love
So,
that.
so, and I just barely missed a C with like no points
Wow.
from homework or like tests and stuff. It was all from playing Scrabble, and I think we won in 3 out of the 4 categories with our catapult that year. That was the year that we decided to not even try for most authentic. We were
That is
just going
amazing.
for distance, accuracy, and I forget what the third category was, but it was another one that had to do with how good your category or how good your
I
catapult
might steal
was
that. And that's the cool thing about
specifically.
talking to teachers and going to high schools.
Yeah.
I've stole a lot of stories and experiences for
I
Gil.
mean, I do remember actually one Friday afternoon, I beat him, and mind you, like I guess Friday morning because it was a morning class always because he taught at both high schools and he was at our high school in the morning. Not enough kids to take Latin for him to only teach at one high school.
Not surprised.
He taught world history and Latin at both high schools.
Not surprised. Not
um,
surprised.
but uh, in one 40-minute game, I once racked up 120 extra credit points.
Wow.
I
Wow.
dropped I dropped a couple of 7-letter words on
Did
him. One
he
of them
did
was on a
he
triple. He was a good Scrabble player. This had started long before I was in, and that semester he would have to like require that other people play in our games because I was so good that nobody else wanted to play in the game because they're like, there's no chance that we're gonna beat him because he's barely managing to beat you. You guys are
Hey,
using so many tiles that
you gotta try. I don't know. Anyway, so yeah,
I've
so
always
Gil
been the
does.
ringer though. I remember the summer that my mother my brother was in swim lessons, so we were playing rummy every day while he was in swim lessons, and I lost so many games that eventually I said that I quit. And she said, "I'll give you a nickel for every point you beat me by." When you're playing 500 rummy, and the next game, the one that I got a nickel for every point I beat her by 480 points.
See,
I
wow.
just went on a tear.
Yeah, so yeah, no,
I'm a, I'm a shark. Not really. Not really. I just sometimes get really lucky. And I wasn't as bad at rummy as I thought I was. Just like
you needed some
that's
motivation. Yeah.
well, no, rummy and Scrabble are the two cutthroat games on that side of the family. There was no time in my life where anybody took it easy on me in those two games.
Oh wow.
When I was playing as a 5-year-old, if I got beat, I got beat because that's how we
Yeah.
play rummy in this house.
No, for sure. That makes sense.
I think I was 9 the first time I won a rummy game. I think I was 11 the first time I won a Scrabble game. I'd been playing them both. I've been playing rummy since I was 5. I'd been playing Scrabble since I could spell,
Wow.
so 5 or 6. You know,
That's great.
um, sorry, that's the aside.
No.
That's not about Henry. They happen sometimes on
No,
22
they have to.
panels.
I mean, and that's the point of doing these things. I try to have I love talking about what I'm doing, but I also
Right.
I think there's a lot of value in sharing these kinds of stories.
Yeah. So, does Gil Thorp get collected at all? Or is it
So
currently only a
where
strip?
it is currently like before me and before everyone except for Jack Brill, that's the only time the original creator's work has been collected. I had a publisher in line, but the Diamond bankruptcy um kind of
That
killed
that
that.
that old diamond bankruptcy that really fucked up
So we're
so much
hoping,
of the industry.
yeah, so we're hoping we get to find another way to do that at some point. And one of the beautiful things about Gil is I get paid to do it. And I love him, but he's not mine. So I put all my resources and money towards the stuff that I own, like Debt to Pachuco, Helm
Of
Great
course.
Castro, and La Voz De M.A.Y.O. So,
Right. Right.
but
Right.
yeah, no. Hopefully someday I look forward to being able to hold Gil. I do own my first strip that I got to write. Rod Wiggum was
Cool.
kind
Cool.
enough to send me the first strip that ran
Eh,
July 11th, 2022.
Even among people that I've talked to who've done comic strip work, I think you're the first one I've talked to that writes but doesn't draw them. What's different between writing for a comic strip versus writing I mean, because obviously you're not doing as much in terms of directing, okay, this is going to be a 4-panel page and this is going to be a 6-panel page and
Sure.
this should be a splash page because no, they're
The
all,
difference is very, very minimal. Sometimes it's 4 panels, but to make it easier for the artist because it's such a demanding schedule, we have it uniform three-panel structure. A lot of the times I like to take the whole panel, like the whole strip, and make it one panel. That's
One panel.
something that I'll do.
I
But
would
it
imagine that
is
your
be
artist likes it when you do that. Do they ever request that?
Rachel is a
It,
pro, so she
okay.
is she it's very rare I hear her
Even
complain
pros
about
are
something.
allowed to make requests. They're allowed to say,
Right.
Henry, I've got a lot going on this week. I feel
Sure.
like we could do two or three one panel comics,
Right. I
and,
write
and
it, I
and then
letter
I
it,
will be able to get my kids to school.
and I started and I started coloring it. So
Oh, okay.
I do everything but the inks, and so I'm much more conservative about what I'm doing with Gil because I don't want to spend too much time coloring something. Um, so yeah, it's
Did you learn to color with Gil, or is that
no,
something that you
no. I
had
mean,
played
I
with
took a. I
before?
mean,
Or
I'm lucky when I was 5 years old, maybe even 4 years old. We had Macintosh
okay,
um computers, so I've been messing with MS Paint or Microsoft Paint or whatever, Photoshop. Been messing with
Photoshop,
Photoshop
right?
my entire life. So one day I was just like, "Hey, let me just pretend I'm in elementary school again." And then I realized, oh yeah, I know how to do this. And I'm not doing this
Yeah,
at like a level that's like respectful in any way, but it is
yeah,
functional. And that's kind of the lettering style that we have with Gil anyway. So I feel lucky that I get to keep a certain level of continuity. Every character kind of has their own color scheme now.
right.
Um, but it's very functional coloring.
All right. Let me get into closing questions just because I know that you have other stuff to do and
Thank you.
I have
No,
some
I
other
appreciate
stuff
it.
to do, but I've been enjoying myself. So like
Same. No, for sure.
always tell me to shut up if like I should have made that clear much earlier. Every
Oh
once in a while,
man.
somebody will be so polite that they'll like suddenly hold up a note that says, I need to go to the bathroom. I'm like, you could have just said that on the air. You could have said, Tad, you're too long-winded. I gotta go.
Oh no.
Because I care way more about you liking me enough to come back than getting the most out of this individual conversation.
For sure, for sure.
So my new follow-up question or my new closing question, I have two now, but the newer one is I'm in my fifth year doing this podcast, and I feel like I've entered the twilight zone. The number
Right.
of people that I consider friends that used to be names on paper, the number of experiences that I've gotten to have that, like, if you told 10-year-old or even 35-year-old Tad, oh, yeah, you're just going to hang out with this person after this con, or you're going to moderate a panel at a major con, or and you're going to have these people on it, or these people show up to it, or you're going to have this person come up and say this thing to you afterwards. Some of them big names, some of them not names, but like the things that they say are like, oh, wow, somebody just said that about me. That's amazing. How did that happen? But I've found that everybody in comics, really everybody who makes a life and living around the arts, but comics in particular, definitely seem to have just a catalog of events in their head that when they think about them, they almost have to pinch themselves to go, did that really happen to me? Was it me that got to do that, hear that, experience that, whatever? Um, so I started collecting those stories. Tell me a story about a surreal moment that you wouldn't have had if it weren't for comics.
Oh my gosh. That is that there's
Probably
so many
life over the
moments.
last 20 years.
So many moments. It's like
Yeah.
I grew up a poor kid from the city of South Tucson who read about comics and read about them through Comics Journal and Wizard Magazine and the back of comics and seeing these names and faces and art styles and writing styles that I get to admire and um I get to enjoy. There's just so many to choose from, really. I guess something that
Well,
really
more reason to
resonant.
come back more times.
Yeah, something that I guess one of the more like I had awakening. So we talked about John Sancher's word balloon being a very
Right.
that per his podcast was so important to me. Kelly Sue DeConnick talked about working at the
Kelly
same
Sue's
place I
great.
worked at and having a similar job that I had and having a typewriter on her desk and saying to herself, "I'm this isn't where I'm going to spend the rest of my career. I'm going to be a writer." So I kind of did something like that too. Like I had a token, and I've started that. This is I guess this could be the other one. This is a mummy doll drawn of the likeness of Anthony Bourdain, and I won it
Right.
at a comic book legal defense fund auction,
Oh, wow.
and he signed it and drew a steak knife with blood
Wow.
falling off of it. Um,
Steak knife with blood falling off of it on the back of his head.
yeah,
Let's not
and
let's not read in too much to that.
I got to meet him at Comic-Con and thank him
Right.
and for his art for his words and I've got to meet the late great Congressman John Lewis and
Yeah.
but then I got to thank Kelly Sue and say, if it weren't for you sharing your experience, um, I wouldn't
First
be here. And
first time I ever had a letter posted or printed in a comic was in FML. And it
yeah, that's
wasn't
great.
actually supposed to be a letter to FML. It was just a letter to Kelly Sue and a reminder that we hadn't managed to schedule anything yet. But they liked my sense of humor enough that they took the part of it that wasn't
That
strictly
part,
the
sure.
come be on the we still need to come on the podcast. She wound
Yeah.
up being on the podcast before the letter ran too. So like it
Oh,
worked
that's
on both
cool.
counts.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and
But
being such a big fan of Brian Michael Bendis and having a chance to have a personal phone call with him and talk to him about, he was very kind about what Death Pachuco was and David Lapham being my
right.
favorite cartoonist of all time and drawing
He's
multiple
the
covers for me.
he's the only person that I own an original page from.
Yeah, no, and taking Katie Skelly and Jaime Hernandez to a Dodgers game, but like also
That's the
uh,
one that I'm most jealous of, Henry.
also just Gonzo and I have really struggled in this business, and us going to Harrogate, UK, and tabling and being able to celebrate the work that we've done together. I mean, I say comics are magic,
Yeah.
and I believe that. I believe they've given me a life that I will always cherish for the rest of my life, and
Well, and hopefully making comics for the rest of your life because I
that
know
is
I want to read
always
them.
that everyone and now the
Let
funny
me
thing.
let me rephrase. Making comics until you don't want to make comics anymore. Because
Sure.
like if you reach an age or whatnot that you would
Yeah.
prefer to retire, I would prefer that you not have to bang out comics just so you can
To
keep a roof
live.
over your head. Um,
Not a bad way to make a
I
living, but I'm very
It isn't,
fortunate.
but
Yeah.
I spent a decade working in senior care, so I've changed the way I tell people that I hope they can do things for the rest of their life. You
Oh, for
know,
sure.
it's
Yeah,
much
yeah, yeah.
more. I hope that you can do it as long as it's what you want to do. I hope it nenever gets taken away from you before you're ready to stop. But also that if you're ever ready to stop, that's an option available to you.
100%. 100%. Thank you. Thank you. So,
Um,
there's so many more stories that I have, but I think Kelly Sue is one of the most important comic book creators in my life
oh yeah,
that gave me the confidence to push through and make
Kelly
something.
Sue is so amazing. Period.
Yeah.
Full stop. And also part of Good Trouble.
Yes, who is you know,
Yeah,
again, you just the life of making comics is so beautiful and you never know where it's going to take you.
that's right. All right. Closing question. Tell me something you love. Preferably a comic, but we don't really have rules.
Oh, sure.
Preferably storytelling, but again, we don't really have rules.
Yeah.
But something that you love that not enough people around you have experienced and you'd
Oh, wow.
really like them to, so you have more people to talk about it with.
So you prefer a comic about
Comics is
things?
preferred, but just so you know, actually, you mentioned Congressman Lewis just from the two people that I've had on the podcast multiple times who are friends of Congressman Lewis, I can give you like a full gamut of the answers. Andrew once said his tomato garden, and Nate
Oh,
Powell once said Jonathan Hickman's X-Men. He said, I
oh
know that
wow.
everybody's reading this, but like I just got back into Wednesday Comics and I'm the indie comic guy. None of my friends are reading this.
Right.
So like there's a lot of latitude. I get
Sure.
movie recommendations, I get indie I get music recommendations like and for that matter, if you're having trouble keeping it to one, I'll
Oh,
take as many as you want to throw out.
all right.
Like
Yeah.
I don't want it to be pressure. I want it to
No,
be
no, no.
it's my cooler way of giving me something unrated or
Sure.
not unrated, underrated. It's my cooler way of saying underrated. So
Yeah.
because I hate the word underrated.
Right.
Um,
You're just
but like
looking for something to read. Yeah. No.
it's always cool when it's something that I haven't read, and it's also sometimes cool when I can say, "Well, I can talk to you about that. That's amazing."
um, I think there is if you ever get a chance, I would, if you can, go to Thought Bubble in Harrogate,
Totally
UK.
on
Bucket
my
list, I'm sure.
bucket list.
Sarah
Yes.
Gordon's Vicious Creatures, something you don't have to go to Thought Bubble to get. You can get that from her or however she's selling that comic. An incredible, incredible horror story if you like horror. Um, the thing I'm really, really excited about, I got my Blu-ray for Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie.
I
Um,
have not yet, but did you also have it recommended to you by Brian Bendis when I had it recommended to me by Brian Bendis?
no, it was something my
Or was it
my
already on your
friend.
list of things to watch
It
when
was,
he
yeah, a
talked
friend of
about it?
mine. So like I'm very lucky that I get to live in LA. A lot of people were buzzing about the movie. Um, and then my friend, she put it on here and we watched it, and it is the perfect movie to watch in the constant hellscape that keeps developing, contracting. It is such a positive, incredible story. One of the funniest things I've ever seen that led to me watching Nirvana, the band, the show
I
that
was
was
about to
out.
ask,
Yeah,
have you
yeah.
watched the show?
I've
Because
seen the 2 seasons. I have not had the chance to watch the web show yet, but those
I haven't watched any of them yet. But now
I would say
I need to
watch the
work even
movie.
harder to movie
And it
first.
will the movie if you want it's on Amazon Prime. The show season 1 is
Okay.
by far my favorite of what they've done. um
Season one of the show is your favorite.
yeah, the movie is incredible, and I would probably say it's my sixth favorite movie. I'm also on Letterboxd. I love film.
Okay.
So my per minute fifth favorite movie is The Royal Tenenbaums. But
That's a
Nirvana,
very
the
good movie.
band, the show, is always going to be jockeying between Junzo Itami movies and uh, probably Perfect Blue. But yeah, no, I would say if you're looking to laugh and have a fun time, Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie is a I think
Okay.
a gift.
Okay. It just went even higher on my list. It was already on my list, and now it's higher on my list.
Awesome.
Um, uh, Henry, it has been outstanding. I am
Yeah, we could do
so
this for
glad
hours. So thank you for
I'm so
having me.
glad to finally have made your acquaintance, and uh I hope that we can do it again.
I look forward to doing
Um,
this again for sure.
yeah, yeah.
I look
So
forward to it.
so so for 22 panels, this has been Henry Barajas, and we will see you after the next page.